next topic we'll jump into is quite an important one for the squad. Basically, how Matteo Guendouzi has gone from mid-season, early season, being an exciting prospect at Arsenal to being basically out the door. Dan, where has it all gone wrong?
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of points where it's gone wrong. I think obviously he's not been training with the team, and he's not getting in the squads because of that. I think it's just basically down to attitude. He's had a few warnings under Arteta. I think there was a thing on the mid-season trip to Abu Dhabi, wasn't there, where he was disciplined and got dropped from the squad. And there's apparently been a few other instances as well where Arteta and Edu have not been happy with his attitude. I don't see any way back for him. And I think, if he's not going to put himself together in terms of how he's behaving, then he has to go. It's going to be such a detriment to the squad. You think back to people like Gallas, for example, and look at how bad his attitude was and how much it was causing us problems. You think about Sanchez as well, in his kind of dying days of his Arsenal career, his attitude was poor as well. And it's not worth it, I think there's a talented player in there. I think Guendouzi will go on to be a decent player, but his attitude is going to hold him back, and he's not going to reach his potential if he keeps behaving like he is.
Yeah. And on that attitude, there was quotes today coming out from his former manager at Lorient saying that his antics will spoil his career, that he talks too much, and that he and Guendouzi didn't get along at all, which isn't a good sign for his future at Arsenal. Serge is ready to talk.
I mean, you talk about his antics and his behaviour, but there's a player who's come back into the squad, who's quite a crucial squad member, who literally was on the pitch, threw his shirt and captain's armband off, and yet he's back in the team. So this idea of his behaviour is he might be a bit immature and a petulant child, because he is. But ultimately, if Xhaka can come back into the team after disrespecting not just the manager, but the entire club and the fan base, and telling us all to F off, I don't see how a child telling another player on the pitch he has more than him is going to get excised and sold from the squad. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because look, he's a raw talent that needs refinement. And that will come with good management from someone like Arteta and Edu controlling in the reins. And I think, taking him off, making him realise that he is liable to get sold at any point is the reminder he needs. But saying we'll never see him play again, after Xhaka coming back into the team, I don't think you can make those claims anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's seen more than those incidents that we've seen. But do you think he's going to be making a mistake if he wants to sell him? Because he's basically determined to sell him now.
I think we don't have a big enough squad to make the decision to sell people that willy-nilly. I think players like that, and he was quite a crucial player for most of the season. And I don't think getting rid of him is the right decision yet. I think, they need to spend some time with him and just get him acting correctly. And that's what they do with a lot of players. Like Dan says, yes, we've had players with bad attitude before, but I don't think you can classify an 18, 19-year-old in the same way. I think you need to give him time to grow up and actually learn from his errors. Kicking him out is not going to teach him anything.
Well, I mean, kicking him out, as he has done so far in not letting him train with the first team, then bringing him back in, that might be something to try and wake him up. Maybe this is all coming out saying I want to sell him to sort of scare him into action. I don't know. And Arteta, very much since he's come in, it seemed to be more about attitude than talent. And do you think that now, what you're saying is a great point about the fact that he's young and he needs to be nurtured. But do you think that right now in Arsenal's moment, he needs to get rid of those players that lack attitude and put attitude before talent?
Yeah, I think the moment he came into the club, Arteta, he said, "I'm going to change the culture here," and that getting rid of players who've not got the right attitude is part of changing that culture. And I understand that, as Serge says, Guendouzi is a good player and we can't go selling players willy-nilly, whatnot. But if he's going to be a detriment, then you've got to get rid of him. It doesn't matter what kind of player he could be. I think he's going to be held back personally. We'll wait and see what happens with him in his career. But I just think right now you need people who are there, committed, who are not messing around, who are taking it seriously, and who are willing to commit and not do silly things on and off the pitch.
Well, that is Arteta's whole strategy, isn't it? I mean, this boat analogy that he used, very simple one. You're either in or you're off. He's set out what he wants to do. He's made his mark. I'm the manager. You do what I say. You'll buy into this collective. Otherwise, there's no place for you. I mean, he's definitely got that off Pep. But I do think it's funny echoing Serge. This season's been the most bizarre season. But we've spent nights writing off Mustafi, saying we'll probably never see him again. Xhaka, we tore into shreds, said he'll never play for us. Guendouzi will probably be captain, lifting the title next season, playing every game for us. So
it's a good point.
just on Serge's Xhaka point, I think you've got to think about it this way as well. Obviously, all the stuff with Xhaka happened before Arteta, and Arteta made it clear when he came in that it was a clean slate, and everyone was back to square one, basically, and they had to prove themselves. And I think Xhaka's gone about it in the right way. He's said all the right things, done all the right things, and he seems a lot more committed to the cause than he was. And I think Guendouzi, he's really he's really spoiled what could have been a good Arsenal career, to be honest.
I think it's too early to say spoiled it. I think now is the time where Arteta is going to use his man management technique and actually re-educate the boy. And I think this is where next season we'll see if he's here. Or if he's here, then I think Arteta's training would have worked. If he's gone, then I think, Dan, unfortunately, you will actually be right. But
I bet you a tenner he goes in the summer, and that's on record now.
I'll bet you a tenner that he stays.
All right, cool. We're on.
Solid. That's what we like to hear. But with him, I mean, Arteta's saying he wants to leave. If he does end up leaving, how do you think he'll get on elsewhere? I mean, there's potential there for it to be Gnabry 2.0, and I'm sure people will say that if he has a single good performance for any club that he goes to. But do you think he's gonna go to another club, maybe a different league, and thrive more? Dan,
he'll go back to France, surely.
In terms of what he's going to do if he leaves Arsenal, I couldn't care less. If he's not with us, I'm not bothered. I think you made the Gnabry comparisons, but you look at Gnabry and he's someone who's obviously he's had a few bad moments with Arsenal and West Brom, and he's really turned his career around. And that's someone who clearly has the right attitude. Guendouzi's attitude is going to hold him back. You think about someone like Ravel Morrison, for example. You read all the quotes from Sir Alex Ferguson about how good he was as a youngster at Man United and how he was the best player he'd seen at his age group, stuff like that. But his attitude is what's held him back. There's clearly a talented player in there with Morrison, but it's the attitude. And if your head's not in the right place, if your head is not in the right place, you're not going to make a career.
Yeah, you have the likes of Jermaine Pennant, David Bentley. He used to get the ump because Bergkamp wouldn't give his place up for him.
But what have we thought of his actual performances this season? Because obviously he was a main starter under Emery when it was all unravelling horribly. And I remember games such as the Aston Villa second half, where he basically turned the game around by himself at the Emirates in that 3-2.
Yeah, but it's fleeting moments, isn't it? I mean, you could draw a comparison to what we've said about Ceballos. Ceballos has had a handful of really, really good performances, and it's the same with Guendouzi.
Someone else who wrote off.
It's the same with Guendouzi. Why should he be put on this pedestal because he's had a few decent performances? He shouldn't.
Why
I totally agree.
Why are you so quick to try and get rid of a boy that's such a young age and a raw talent?
I don't want people with an attitude like you. I'm joking.
I think
if you're off the podcast, mate, it's over.
I think players like him, they're worth trying to rehabilitate. I think the mistakes we've seen have been, all spoken about in rumour and smoke and mirrors. We've not really been told anything concrete that he's said or done. And like you said, the first half of the season was under Emery. I don't think you can really count, the sloppy performances because the whole team was up and down and left and right. I think it was very difficult to really read anything into the performances then. I think, he's not maybe not a first 11 player, but he's definitely a squad player. And I think he's definitely someone we should try and rehabilitate and keep for the next season because I think he's a very good backup as a DM role.
But that's the point. You say he's a squad player, but the noises that come out of his agent and himself is, he throws his toys out the pram if he's not getting first team football. He thinks he's way ahead of in his career than he actually is. He's got to sit back and learn.
Yeah, I think he's got too big for his boots, personally. I mean, when he first joined, he was expected to, I think we all said, he'll just go into the under-23s, he'll play a few League Cup games, but he was thrown in from the start, and I think he's almost got this idea that he's more important than he is, in a way.
Mm.
Yeah, it shows from his quotes what he said to Mopé. But I guess the question is, in the end, do Arsenal have time for a player to rehabilitate the attitude of a player like Guendouzi? Let us know in the comments. We think Dan says no, Sergio says yes, Glen says no. definitely let us know in the comments.